Friday, the final day of the week. These are the voyages of the program Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Its ongoing mission to explore strange new movies, to seek out new bits and new edifications, to boldly go where no radio program has gone before. Elkent's Movie Club. It's Elkent's Movie Club. Elkent's Movie Club. It's Elkent's Movie Club. Featuring Elkent Wolgamott of Lincoln Journal-Star. And if you will notice...
Oh, I noticed, all right.
Well, first of all, Josh is all pixelated.
Am I?
Which
Not
is
a good
appropriate.
look for Max. Dang it, Josh.
Which is actually appropriate because if you look if you're watching along on YouTube, if you look in the upper left-hand corner, Denver being represented by the Broncos.
Oh, I didn't wear my Cowboys gear.
Kent representing the now Las Vegas Raiders, and yours truly representing the LA Rams. And so, of course, Josh, being the loser that he is, can't show off his pride.
No one can see it.
Oh, really?
Can't show off his pride for his crappy Dallas Cowboys because he's so embarrassed.
I got my Red Wings hoodie on. Pixelated, right?
It's frozen as hell.
Oh, that's bad. Here, I'll reload it there, Steve.
Hashtag Mac.
No, it's the internet, John. I'm not logged in.
I'm on the same internet as you.
Aren't you wired in?
No.
Dang, you're not wired in.
No.
Damn it, Josh.
Kent, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good.
Not bad. So, as a Raider fan, a lifelong Raider fan, you've seen them in Oakland, Los Angeles, Oakland, now Las Vegas. Does it bother you that they're not the Oakland Raiders anymore?
A little bit, but not very much, truthfully. The Raiders have a long history of going where they want to go and doing what they want to do, which is one of the reasons I like them so much, you know? So
they did, especially back in the 70s. Now, Kent and I can talk about this because we're old people, but they did. The Raiders truly embodied their nickname back in their glory days because they were renegades. They didn't give a crap about anything. They would make the conference or the commissioner's office mad. Al Davis was a rebel. I mean, you talk about a team that fit its image, fit its colors, and fit its name. It was the Oakland Raiders.
Just win, baby.
Well, we'll see if they just win this year.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have confidence in them? Do you think they'll make the playoffs at least?
I think they might get it. If they get above 500, they might have a shot at it. And I think they can do that. They start by sweeping the mules and move onward.
Cute.
Stibbs, thoughts?
No.
I never heard that one. I hear donkeys normally,
Donkeys a
but
lot.
mules.
It's funny. The Raiders used to be where my hatred was.
Yeah.
Like as a kid, it was those Sunday night. I remember Bill Romanowski spitting in people's faces and snowballs being thrown. Those were fun games.
You'll remember. I mean, I know that people talk about the Chiefs-Raiders rivalry, but in the 80s, the Raiders and Broncos were the better rivalry because they were better teams.
Yep, absolutely. And there's something more bitter about the rivalry between Denver and Oakland, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, whatever, than there is between the Raiders and the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I mean, there always has been, even back, all right, I will date myself dramatically. I was a little kid in 1967, and for the Nebraska, what would that have been? Centennial?
Mm-hmm.
They had an exhibition game in North Platte, of all places.
Really?
That was the Raiders and the Broncos. And I made my mom and dad take me up there, and that was the day that I became a Raiders fan and have been my whole life. And, it's in a high school stadium. And afterwards, you could go down and talk to the players and stuff. And that was my day that I became Mr. Raider for decades now.
So what between those two teams, what made you decide on the Raiders and not the Broncos? Did you get to talk to more of their players, or?
Yep, and they looked cooler and they beat the crap out of the Broncos.
All right.
Now I'm trying to think. I'm trying to get my timeline. That's a little bit before Marlon Briscoe, right?
Correct.
Because Briscoe was still at Omaha.
Right. He would have been still in college then.
Right. But Daryl LaMonaco was probably with the Raiders.
Yep, absolutely.
Jim Otto was with the Raiders
forever.
Yeah. So, the Raiders had more stars because that was right at the beginning of when they really started to get good because they would make the Super Bowl the next year.
Yes.
So that makes sense.
Interesting.
Well, this week's movie in the movie club, Josh selected it. Now, it's funny because we were talking off the air, but the reason he selected this movie, Da 5 Bloods, was because Chadwick Boseman, who had just passed away.
Yeah.
This was one of his last movies, but he actually is a supporting role player. He only has about maybe 10 to 15 minutes of screen time in this movie. He's not the star.
Yeah, I had no idea, because you scroll through Netflix and you see the movie and he was on like all of the posters. He was like the guy in the center of it. So I was like, oh, this is a Chadwick Boseman movie. And then I watch it and of course he's barely in it. And so in a way I kind of regret it. And I guess I wasn't a huge fan of the movie either. So I kind of regret it from that perspective as well.
Well, I actually really like the movie, and I see, in a way, he is the center of the movie because their trip to Vietnam is, at least predicated somewhat on going to get his remains, and B, when you look at the way that Spike Lee shot that picture, where they didn't make any effort to make the guys in their 70s look like they were in their 20s.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Tells you he's still with them. That was the image, the message that he was sending, and that the sort of the inspiration, I guess you would say, of his character is what powers these guys in the movie, and also sets up the disagreements that they have that make it the movie that it is. And interestingly enough, this movie was originally about 4 white guys.
Yes.
And Spike and another guy rewrote it to make it have this resonance about the black experience in Vietnam, and then larger by implication, I guess.
So the real quick synopsis of this is you have these 4 guys who survived Vietnam, who go back to Vietnam. One of their original missions was that they were escorting this cache of gold that the United States was using to pay off another government to help them in the fight against the North Vietnamese. The plane crashes, gold goes down, and it's also at this firefight where Chadwick Boseman's character dies in Vietnam. So these 4 guys go back for 2 things. 1, the gold, and 2, for the remains of their fallen brother. And that's where the story kind of takes off from there. I think, I liked it. I thought it was a good movie.
I thought it was interesting.
It was an interesting movie. I think the thing that stood out to me, and by the way, of everybody else who's in the film, Chadwick Boseman is the biggest star, or at least name star.
Sure.
A lot more role players, but I think, and you'll recognize him if you don't know the name, but you'll recognize him because he's been in a lot of Spike Lee movies. But Delroy Lindo plays one of the 4 Band of Brothers, we'll call them.
Sure.
And
one of the Bloods.
And I thought he had an amazing performance, and I've got to believe I think he should be up for an Academy Award. I thought he was the standout actor in this film.
And real quick, Kent, before you go, I want to add this. I thought what made him so fascinating is at times I didn't know how I should feel about him, because on one hand, I don't think he was a good dude and like as a person. On the other hand, he's obviously going through a lot and he's dealing with PTSD. And so I thought that balance that he had to play there, it was obviously a very challenging role. Mm-hmm. And I thought that there were some scenes where I really liked him and other scenes where I really didn't.
And I will say that in the review that I wrote a couple months ago or whenever it came out, I wrote that Lindo's performance is Oscar worthy. So I think that, and that's I think that was a hard role to play, because I'm sure that he doesn't have as a human being, I'm sure he has very little in common with this guy that he was playing.
Right. I don't think any of these guys were war veterans.
No. They're actors. You know, they're of the not old enough to go to Vietnam, but too old to have gone to any of these, Gulf War kind of things, right? They're in that age group of, late 50s, early 60s down to whatever. The younger guy is probably Delroy Lindo's son, I guess, would be in his 30s, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was really good too.
Yeah, you'll also recognize, those of you who watch The Wire.
Mm-hmm.
Two of the actors are also part of this. Clark Peters, who plays, what was his name in The Wire?
That's not Clay Davis, right? Clay Davis.
Clay Davis was Isaiah Whitlock, the guy who played Clay Davis, is one of the brothers.
Yeah, Lester Freeman.
Lester, who's kind of the more seasoned black detective.
He was my favorite character.
Kind of the voice of reason
in The Wire.
He was in there. He's in this movie. Isaiah Whitlock, who plays Clay Davis.
Mm-hmm. And he has the line.
And he does have the line. And was that distracting to you? Now, did you see The Wire, Kent?
Yes.
So in the movie,
I won't finish it.
He does that?
He does that.
He has this long, drawn-out way of saying the S word, and he does it in this film. And I'm like, wait a minute. He's usurping a line from his character from this TV series. And I thought that just didn't seem like it was in place.
But I think it was intentional, because if you look through the movie, if you pay attention to the movie on a different level, there are all these references to other stuff. Like there's a reference to Apocalypse Now when
music
play Flight of the Valkyries. Yep. There's a reference to We Don't Need No Stinking Badges.
Yes.
Right? There's references to the Temptations, and the guys' names are the names of the Temptations.
So, Kent, I guess
I did not recognize that.
I want to talk about kind of, I guess, my criticism and get your take on it. So, because there were moments where I really enjoyed it, and there was a stretch, and it's probably about an hour in until the moment, really probably when the other guy that we didn't mention, one of the Bloods, when he blew up, and I thought that stretch, so probably like an hour, was really good. But I think at times the aspect ratio changing, it changed. I mean, it was like literally all the aspect ratios that changed a bunch. I found that a little distracting. At times, I thought that the Delroy character seemed like a caricature of like this ideal of a black man who is a Trump supporter. I don't know. Sometimes I was taken out of the movie, if that makes sense.
Welcome to Spike Lee Pictures.
And that's always my criticism with him is like the very end of Black Klansman. It's just like, I feel so heavy-handed, and sometimes I go into a movie and I'm ready for the movie, and it's like, oh, okay, now it's kind of, it's a documentary or something like that. And it had that feel at times.
Yeah, and that's a Spike Lee technique of the, particularly in this one where he threw in the realistic, documentary style footage and change the aspect ratios and all of that. That's Spike Lee. And if that bothers you, that's going to bother you, because not so much in his very early movies, but in his last maybe 15 years worth of pictures, that's kind of been a very standard technique that he uses.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the character, I think there is some heavy-handedness, but he's making a point as well.
Yeah.
Right? And remember that this movie, Spike Lee makes very political films.
Very.
Mm-hmm.
And so Delroy Lindo embodied much of that. And so he's going to have to carry that political load, that character. And it might be too much, right? It might be an exaggerated character that no real human would do everything that he did. But that's the reason for it.
No, and the other thing too, like the opioid crisis is like kind of like an off center storyline, I guess, throughout it with one of the characters in particular. And it just was like, I don't know. It seemed like there's a 2.5 hour movie, and there was just so much in that 2.5 hours. And I almost wanted them to lose a couple of storylines along the way and maybe allow some other stuff to breathe.
And I guarantee you that if this had been a theatrical release or a major studio release in any sense, that would have happened.
Yeah.
This is what you get when you get a Netflix movie, right?
Sure.
You're going to get the quote director's cut because, they get paid to make the movie and there's no box office concern or anything else. So they make the movie they want to make for Netflix, which is part of the reason why they do it. But it's also part of the reason you can get some movies that are run a little too long on Netflix.
Yeah. And Josh mentioned something about the aspect ratio. The scenes where they flash back to the 60s is actually shot on 16 millimeter.
Yep.
And so, that's something that Spike Lee wanted to do was I want the flashbacks on 16 millimeter, everything else in digital. So yes, the screen narrows when you go back in time.
And it legitimately looked different too.
Yes,
like
and it does.
actual,
That's cool. Because it was shot on film. And then, of course, the modern scenes, most of the movie is shot on digital. So it goes back out to 16:9. And, it looks rather normal. And that was done on purpose. I guess if I had a criticism of it, Kent, it was, I thought that the music took away from the film. That the score, the instrumental score, the orchestral score didn't match the film. It was weird to me. And maybe it's just what
you expect?
Because Spike Lee will use a lot of...
You say that's very much a Spike Lee thing.
Right.
Too.
But you're used to, and maybe it's just part of the formulaic, when you do a Vietnam movie, it's got to be Vietnam era music, right? But for some reason, I thought that the score kind of distracted me at times when there's some dramatic scenes. It's like, this music doesn't fit. And I don't know why it was. There was just something about the music that didn't fit some of the scenes that were playing, or maybe it was a little over the top when I didn't think it needed to be. I don't know. I don't know if anyone observed that or not, but I just felt the score just didn't seem to match the film to me.
That I didn't notice. I did think it ran a little too long.
Yeah.
It could have been, the points were made early enough. They didn't need to repeat so much of it. I did think that when it kicked into being an action movie, it really kicked into being an action movie.
Yes, it did. It went from 0 to 60 pretty quick.
And I thought those were really well done. That
I did too.
Aspect of it. And you don't generally associate that with Spike Lee, honestly. And bang, it was really well done.
Any other
thoughts? No, I think that's all I have.
Yeah, Da 5 Bloods. It is streaming on Netflix. This is one of Chadwick Boseman's last appearances, but as we pointed out at the beginning, he was more of a supporting role. He was not a starring role in this film. So, and I think doesn't he have one more film that's out there?
I think so. Do you know, Kent?
There is one more that's supposed to come yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
But once again, I think it's a supporting thing and not over the title star kind of.
Also, I will say this. I really did like that the flashbacks were the older actors. Like, I thought that was a really kind of fun, not fun, but a unique twist on that type of movie. Because I didn't expect that. I had no idea that it was going to be that way.
Because that way you knew which character was which. Yep. I mean, if they would have had younger actors, you would have had to go, okay, so he's this guy, he's this guy. And I agree with you, Kent. I think there's an element to that speaks to the fact that the Chadwick Boseman character is still inside these guys, because Chadwick Boseman's character was the leader of this squad and kind of not only just the leader, but like the inspirational leader of this squad. They affected all of these guys in different ways. And I think that was kind of an artistic way of showing that, yeah, this is how he was.
Yeah. And, I'll add this too. And I guess I've been kind of critical, and yet I'm finding things I like about it the more I talk about it. It definitely did make me think of friendship. I'm at that age, knock on wood, where nobody in my friend circle that's close to me has passed away yet. And so thinking of people like that went and fought in a war and bonded and fought and argued, but were not literal, but they felt like brothers. And losing somebody at that age, I can't imagine the heartache. And you can see, I thought that the characters did a really good job of portraying the heaviness in which that had stuck with them for decades after Vietnam.
I agree with that as well.
Well, as you noticed, Stibbs didn't participate much this week because he forgot his assignment.
We need to set a calendar reminder for you, Stibbs. We're going to start doing.
I wanted to see this one too. It wasn't like I forgot. I legitimately
like John will forget next week.
Yeah,
he better not.
All right. So, what are you going to stick us with, Stibbs?
I am picking Kent. I know we mentioned it. I don't know if you've talked about it yet, or if you've watched it yet. The new Charlie Kaufman movie. I'm thinking of Ending Things on Netflix.
No, I don't even know what you're talking about.
John's gonna hate it, which is why.
Yeah, he'll guarantee.
Okay, why am I gonna hate
it's
this?
Just it look. I mean,
the book is weird. I read the book, man.
It looks super.
Kaufman makes really.
It's the same guy who did
strange
John Malkovich
movies.
I wasn't here that
That's right,
week, so I didn't see John Malkovich.
He did
great.
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Hate that movie.
He's done some weird ones. He's great.
Did you see his last two before these two?
What were they?
Anomalisa, the animated one, and then before that's Sonocha, New York, or whatever it was. They're both
just awful.
He does some weird. He's a weirdo.
Yeah, this is going to be great fun.
It's on Netflix. John, you can stream it on Netflix.
He is extremely critically acclaimed, John. He makes fantastic
films. Which means John's going to hate him
He
even
makes
more.
fantastic motion pictures for film.
You know who makes fantastic motion pictures? George Lucas makes fantastic motion pictures.
Ron Jeremy.
He'll be making them from prison here.
Yeah. He looks rough.
Give him a 16 millimeter camera for prison. It's so artistic.
Well, Kent, have a great weekend. We've got NFL back, but your NBA is still percolating along. So
yes, and my Miami Heat, I picked them before the playoffs started.
You did.
Nobody listens to me.
Kent knows his stuff, man.
He does indeed.
All right, Kent, have a great weekend. Thanks.
Bye, Kent.
There he is, Kent Wolgamott in the movie club. So what's the name of this damn thing?
I'm thinking of ending things.
You should watch the trailer during the next break.
I'm stunned that Stibbs would pick a movie that says, I think I'm ending things.
Very on brand for Stibbs.
I have a tattoo of this on my arm.
I'm excited.
I'll read you the bio,
years.
John. It says, full of misgivings, a young woman travels with her new boyfriend to his parents' secluded farm. Upon arriving, she comes to question everything she thought she knew about him and herself.
Ooh.
Okay.
And it is a adaptation of a book, I believe, which I did not read because I'm not a nerd.
I just said that I read it, Stibbs.
Just why he said he didn't read it.
You guys are jerks. I love reading.
I'm sure the book's great.
By the way,
it was actually not.
This has been the most enjoyable movie club yet because Josh has been permanently frozen.
Have I been frozen the whole time?
Pretty much. It got a little bit better. Right now, it's as good as it's been. It's at least moving, but it's pixelated as hell. Most of the time, you're just completely frozen.
Well, that's
no. You are like a permafreeze on my screen. Yeah,
he's moving around a little. Oh, now he is. Nope, there he is. He's moving around.
I'll tweet out a picture of it, but. Yeah, pixelated Josh in deep thought is what
there
I've been
were a couple
with.
Pretty funny moments that it'd freeze with you going like this or like
oh, that's unfortunate.
All right, we're gonna pick the NFC and AFC Easts.
Hell yeah,
and we got to get to the playoffs. We have predictions coming up.
One Beer Friday
for this week. One Beer Friday is coming up. And I'm sure the Big Ten did something stupid while we were in the movie.
Did they?
I'm sure I'm guessing.
I'm sure they're great.
On 1620 The Zone.